Blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning. Our great friend Dave Petzo joining us from the Petzo Center, Petzo Financial. And Dave Petzo attended the big show over the weekend. What were your thoughts?
Oh, I thought it was well done, and it was fun. I was amazed. We were fortunate to go on Saturday because Friday they had, I guess he started late and they had some difficulties.
How inconsiderate of him.
Yeah. They had some difficulties.
To start late, yeah, power outage, 20 minutes or something like that?
Well, there's a power outage, and they just, I guess anyway, it was like 2 hours before, didn't start till 9 o'clock, so
sure.
A little earlier the night after. We came a little bit later, so we didn't have to put up with all the lines. It was really quite something. So
you were with some of the rude people that come in, that people are in their seats and they have to move to let you in.
We had an end seat, so yeah, we did. Since somebody took over our seat, we did ask them to move, yes.
What was that like?
Yeah, they moved.
Right.
They knew.
Yeah,
they moved on down. They were just spreading out.
They were spreading out in seats that weren't theirs.
Correct, until other people showed up.
So from a business perspective, what do you make of, what was it, 80,000 people over 2 days, or was it 40,000? I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of things going back and forth. And I know you, Dave Petzo, you don't like the fake news. So, 80,000 people, 90, 100,000 people. What was your estimate of this Mr. Brooks and his Amazon crew coming to town?
Yeah, I would think it was 40. I don't really know how many people fit on the football field, but that's the difference with a football game, is the stadium was full, and then you now have, instead of players on the field, you have fans on the field, and so there was a good number. So I'd have to say, without being a numbers expert, what is the capacity? 36,000 for Boise State, something like that. And they had them full, and then you throw on the field, and there were thousands of people on the field. So
let me hit you from a branding perspective.
Yeah.
So you went to Saturday night show.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So that's the one where Garth Brooks grabbed the Bronco flag and ran around, and I don't know if he skipped or what he did, but something like that, right?
I remember him grabbing the flag and running around.
Right, he was running around the flag. So at one time, and you have been here for thousands of years. This used to be a Vandal town. And I can remember talking to Dr. Custer along with Tommy Ahlquist, and he was talking about, before 2007, before the Fiesta Bowl, the challenges that Boise State had of really being the thing in the town, which it is right now. Mm-hmm. And even though they had the blue, and even at the time, Dan Hawkins, as you know, John and Chris were all about Dan Hawkins, and he was all about them and you. He was starting to build a reputation even before the greatest game of all time.
Right.
So people are talking about, who's this guy in Boise, Idaho, with the Zen-like coaching philosophy. I remember reading about Dan Hawkins, but Dr. Custer was talking about the challenges of people in Boise or in the Treasure Valley really adopting Boise State because everybody was a Vandal.
Yes. And to a degree that still has that, but it has. It's been a big shift. So this town used to be run by Idaho Vandals.
So if I'm head of the Vandals or whatever, and I see Garth Brooks gallivanting around with a Boise State flag, which will probably be on every college football show throughout the country, how do you counter Garth Brooks? I mean, that is pretty much game, set, match, at least initially.
Yeah.
But the Vandals aren't going to give up, so you think to yourself, how can you counter that from not a sports perspective, but a branding perspective?
Yeah, from a branding perspective, I don't know how they compete, honestly. You can't. They have a different situation up north. It's all the attorneys come from there. They have a good fraternity system. It's a different ball game for a college experience, and so they have a different, if you will, connection to their school. I think Boise State's still struggling with that, frankly. I don't see I think they're great. People go to the games. If we win, then people show up. If we don't, they don't show up. And they won't show up to the basketball games. I think that we don't have the connection here at Boise State, the depth of that connection to the college that most colleges enjoy with all the people that went there, all their alumni. So I think that it's a struggle for Boise State just as much as it is for University of Idaho as far as connecting, really deeply connecting to the community. There's the community of people that went to their school. University of Idaho gave up a long time ago, pretending that they had some equivalent to a football team and could compete with them. They can't on the athletic field, and they kind of faded away on that. So I don't think they're going to be too offended that Garth Brooks in Boise, Idaho at BSU Stadium is going to run around with a flag.
All right, our friend Dave Petzel joining us, the Petzel Center, Petzel Financial, talking about the big event economically. I imagine it was huge. Not only did you have Garth Brooks, but you had his wife, Tricia Yearwood. You had all these vendors coming in. Last week I was driving around Boise State, and people said, oh, they're coming in. So I took my vehicle over and drove around, and I saw, what are these? There's like 8 trucks with nothing on it, nondescript big semis. The logistics of that. Now, you look at, what was it, over 80,000 people both nights at, what, 40, 50, 60 bucks a clip?
Or more.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you, and I think how it works is like you rent the stadium, so you cover the rent there, but to be able to afford that and to make profit on that, from a local perspective, how much money do you think was generated by that show?
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. I was thinking about that. I honestly, Kevin, I was thinking about that on the way in. Do you
I
assume?
knew you would be, Dave Petzo.
Are you thinking $100 a person when you kind of, as far as economic impact, somebody buys a beer and they're like $10 a piece. The stadium itself, Boise State getting the revenue there, all the people that are employed there, probably somewhere in that for an economic impact, probably even more. And so we're talking about, what is that, $80 million of impact? More? 100 million? I think it's more. And that's
all the
huge.
State getting the taxes and your beloved city of Boise getting their taxes, I'm sure.
Absolutely. There's undoubtedly it was a big and I know people that came to town for this. Some stayed with friends, but some certainly were in the restaurants and some were
from California.
Undoubtedly checking out the area.
Sure, marking their territory, how much they can kick out the people that live here.
Exactly, right. It's just figuring out what street they're going to take over next.
Well, it is happening here. Dave Petzo joining us, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. A couple other stories that is interesting. Are we seeing the end of Netflix? People love Netflix, but a few glitches over the years. One notably continuing to raise subscriptions, number one. Number two, you've got Disney. They're losing The Office. They're also losing Friends. You've got more and more people getting into the Netflix business. Hulu and others, their stock took a tumble last week.
Big hit. They actually, Kim, it's funny, we were talking about that, right?
Yeah.
And talked about the fact that Netflix, since they have such a big global reach, the problem for them is going to be able to be raising costs in the future that I don't think they're going to go away because of competition, but they can't really raise their prices. That's not good. But at the same time, this was worse than that. They showed some 100,000, or I can't remember the exact number, people that actually dropped off their subscriptions, and they did it in many cases at a much higher level because in areas that they were raising prices. So people are price sensitive, more so than I thought at this point. And with more competition coming, Kevin, it doesn't look that great for Netflix. Certainly as far as the power they have, the unifying power they have for content, no, it's now going to be spread out. It should be a very interesting entertainment world over the next 5 years.
Well, $12 billion alone last year on content. Now, you and I sometimes, reluctantly, some of us, are hard on the radio business, the audio business. But comparatively speaking, could we see more fragmentation in television? I mean, it used to be you'd have to buy the cable packages, people cut the cords, and now all of a sudden it's almost like breaking up AT&T. People seem to be buying these streaming services almost as what they paid for cable. Your thoughts on television being fragmented even more?
I absolutely agree, Kevin, and the idea that as soon as we're unbundling, like you said, snipping the cord, everything's changing out there. You used to have 200 stations, and 195 of them were nothing you would ever watch, and now we're going to be finding that people are going to be able to dial in exactly what they watch, pay for what they watch, and not pay for everything else. That's going to change a lot of things from, the rifles channel to the archery channel, hunting, whatever it is, fishing, all those things that are kind of thrown in. those stations are going to really struggle, I think, for subscribers, and we'll see about that. But it seems to me that a lot of those things will go away. That's too bad, because some of them might be upstarts that might be interesting down the road. But people are going to dial in what they want, not pay for what they don't want. And that, I think, is nothing but great for the consumer. It may be from an artistic perspective, not allow some startups in that we wish would be there someday. But at the same time, consumer choices should always reign supreme.
Well, we forgot to mention YouTube is a big...
Oh, it's huge, isn't it? YouTube TV. I don't know anything about it, but I keep reading about it, yeah, as taking over.
And that allows just about anybody. I mean, do you have a YouTube channel yet?
I don't.
From the Petso Center?
Should I be YouTubing it?
Right, you could be doing that, and then on the weekends you could have Dave on the Loose, where you're riding around the Greenbelt and such, and giving us proper tips on bike safety and such.
Absolutely.
You wear a helmet?
No.
Oh, Dave, we're so disappointed.
I know.
Coming up next, we'll talk a little bit about the future of Amazon and what's the deal. The crazy, wacky Iranians are running amok in the Straits of Hormuz, the Persian Gulf, and yet our gas prices haven't gone up. Will somebody alert the oil companies? Kevin Miller, Dave Petso, KIDO Talk Radio. And rolling right along on the right side, Dave Petso, Kevin Miller. Dave from the Petso Center. Your calls, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So the Iranians are running amok, and yet the greedy, grubby oil companies haven't raised prices. However, this just in, oil prices rise amid Mideast tension. And, you take a look at what's going on in China. They're worried about their fuel prices as well. Let's see, higher, oil gains, and there we are. People are worried about our future with China, but oil prices seem to be rising, but not like they used to.
No, and as a matter of fact, as you know, during the summer driving season, gas prices have come down. It's pretty crazy. We've actually seen, what are we, down below now, $3 in Idaho. That's good. That's better than it has been. But the point that's stunning to me is the idea of where, when I was growing up, we had a Middle East gas price, the Arab oil embargo back in the day, right? It was really an amazing thing, gas lines and all that.
That was in the 70s, Dave. A lot of people weren't around then.
I know. And then by the 80s, if you'd have still been, we were. Not, lots weren't, I know. That's unfortunate they don't teach history, because what we're living with right now, living in this time, is absolutely stunning. Geopolitically, if there was where 1/5 of the oil, or it used to be more, would go through the Middle East.
Persian Gulf, yeah.
And you were talking about, you're talking about some kind of a potential war there. We would see energy prices going up every single day. It would be very frightening, and it very, very much would affect the economy. It would, and now we're actually seeing it decline in the midst of a bunch of saber rattling from the Iranians. It's really a change, and with that change comes not just energy independence and cheap gas for Americans, but the whole world. It changes the whole flow of where the power base is, and it's not in the Middle East anymore. We're not beholden to them just because we can get oil from them. They need to be good actors. It changes everything.
Dave Petso joining us here. We were talking about some of the things that you can do. Let's say you're a young person just getting started. You're a big fan of the Roth IRA, right?
Huge. Yeah, it's the biggest gift ever.
Why is that?
You can put money away, and it's never taxed again. Never. I mean, I talk about this all the time, and I just want to say it again. And anybody that wants this illustration, we're happy to send you a PDF. Just let us know your email address, and we'll be happy to send it to you so you can get your kids and grandkids to go, wow, that's pretty easy. But if you put a cup of coffee a day, which is $150 a month, $5 a day, into a Roth IRA, for 40 years, it would grow to $1.2 million. It did. Through oil embargoes, through wars, through the 2008 financial crisis. Anything you want to make up or not make up, anything that happened, it was there. And that's just the S&P 500. That's not investing in Microsoft or something like that. That's quite a jump. And when you think about all that money then being tax-free, it would be incredible. So that's what the market did. And if you have the ability to put it away and never pay taxes on it again, it's a big, big difference.
So you've in the past said, you would help people. Doesn't matter
That's
what it
true.
is. You would set up a Roth IRA.
We still do, yeah.
So if someone says, hey, I listen to you on Kevin Miller, I'd like to set up a Roth IRA.
Yep.
Now, you can only do, a Roth like once, right?
You open up a Roth and you keep adding to it.
But
Yep.
you can only put in $6,000 a year, is that right? Or what?
It depends on your age, but yeah, $6,000
Now, what if
a
you're
year.
an old person?
Then you get $7,000.
Oof.
Look at that.
Now, $7,000, that doesn't really mean a lot, though.
It doesn't, but here's the deal.
Uh-huh.
If $150 a month, $1,800 a year is $1.2 million, then $6,000 a year is a lot, Kevin. It is a big deal if you start young. It's not a big deal if you're 50 years old and you need to try to get to $1 million. You can't.
Yeah,
young
hold
people,
on. Yeah, Dave.
Yeah.
If you're maybe 51 years old and want to get to $1 million,
then you better get going. It's better to light a candle in a dark room than to sit there and cuss the dark. It is.
Uh-huh.
And I'm serious. You got to get started. But when we talk to young people, say, well, I don't know if I can afford that. Then do $100 and quit being stupid. What you're doing, this is something I don't want to get all fired up about this, but I got to say that
why not?
All of the evidence is there.
We need you fired up today.
All right.
No more happy pets.
I lived it. I watched new teachers coming into school district. I got my big break in Blaine County in the early 80s. And it was, and I watched young teachers come in. I don't know if I can do this. And fortunately, some of the older ones would say, just get started. And they'd start at $25 a month. And then I'd come back the next year. They get a little raise, and we'd do $35. And then we did $50. And then in the end, they're doing a couple $100 a month, and they're retiring. I watched it happen. I lived it. And these folks have hundreds of thousands of dollars because they started when they were young. If you wait until it all falls into place, you can't. You have to pay yourself first. All of these lessons are very true, but you have to put it away. And the thing about a Roth IRA is you put it away and you forget about it, and it just goes. Just start. Starting's the hard part. It doesn't matter the amount of money. Start, and then finish. That's all you have to do, and you get rich in America. This is the greatest time ever. Can I take one more minute? What the heck is wrong with us? Everybody walks around talking about what's wrong in the world all the time instead of what's right. It's not just the news. Millennials walk around like there's some kind of I can't understand school teachers that teach that the world is ending instead of inspiring people to how great the world is. It's amazing to me how many young people I walk around and they're, why don't you invest? Well, what's the point? The earth is going to burn up and all this nonsense. When I was growing up, the same thing was taught. It was crazy. It was the world was going to be orange. It was going to be orange 20 years ago. It wasn't orange. And there's billions more people here. This is an amazing time, and all we have to do is move forward, invest, move forward, start businesses. That's my lesson of today.
Well, thankfully, we can go to traffic and weather together. KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. And we're back here with Dave Petzo, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. I had a chance to go to McCall over the weekend. Do you go to McCall a lot?
Not a lot, but I do enjoy it.
Right.
But apparently a lot of people do because it's really crowded.
Right. You go to the Ridleys and you go to the lake and that sort of thing. It's fascinating, though. I always look at things, maybe it's so many years with you, just from a business perspective, and just how big of a magnet McCall is for not only people here, but people in Washington and Oregon. I was talking to a guy from Portland, and he goes, yeah, our family vacations here every year. And I go, bro, you've got the Oregon coast right down the hall. He goes, no, there's something very special about McCall. And I'm thinking, okay, it is kind of touristy, but it's so compact. Mm-hmm. And, your thoughts on that. From a business perspective, how alluring is McCall? And, we have Sun Valley as well.
Yep.
And, so often we focus on what's going on here, but it's like, an hour and a half away, if you will. If you can go through the highway of death, you're great. You can survive that. Well,
and nowadays with all the traffic, it's a couple hours.
It is.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you could do it in an hour and a half, but maybe at midnight if you don't. No,
I did it 2 hours. I was driving slow and the winding roads and the kayakers next to me, and I'm going, man, my life is stressful enough here at the broadcast center. That was a life-changing experience.
That was death-defying.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Well, first of all, I think that McCall is Idaho, and the way Coeur d'Alene is Idaho, and it is changing. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
And I think that's going to lose its allure, its special quality, because Idaho people are nice. They enjoy a conversation more than anywhere else I go. It's just, we're different, and it also has that rustic, nobody's trying to put on airs feel. You know, you go to places in California and bigger is better and all those things, and people are trying to upstage each other. We don't do that here. I mean, when people do that, we know they're not from here, right?
We do that a lot now with all the Californians.
Well, then we know they're not from here. But my point is, the more we lose of that, the less real the places become. The thing I love so much about Idaho is you can run into people who are, I don't know, worth $50 million, $100 million. You would never know it. J.R. Simplot used to drive around in his old Lincoln, right? And he just really didn't. He was just a regular guy. So were all the industrialists that made this town great and built it, and where we live now, and all the parks and all those things. These were normal, nice people, and they really were. And that's the thing that Idaho is different, I think, in the places I visit, where people really are trying to help their community feel connected. And Kevin, yes, McCall will lose that one day, but that's what I think the person from Portland was saying.
Let me cut you off here. One more. We've only got about a minute left. We're going over, but last week, Salter Medical Group, groundbreaking 10-mile crossing right there on 10 Mile, right in the heart of the Center Valley. Had a chance to catch up with our old friend Tommy Ahlquist. Salter is going to be a major player now. Not that they weren't. They were primarily in Canyon County.
Yep.
Remember, St. Luke's tried to acquire them. Lawsuits, antitrust, boom, blew that up. Now you've got another major medical player seemingly growing right now here in the Treasure Valley. What does that mean to consumers?
All good news. Another choice. Another non-hospital monopoly, supposedly not-for-profit monopoly, is now opening for business, expanding their opportunities for people. It'll drive costs down. More opportunities is better care, better cost. We win every way to Sunday on something like that.
I bet they didn't ask you that question on Channel 7.
And you're right. I'll bet you also that the hospitals are not happy about it either. The monopoly is being broken up, and it'll continue to be broken up, in my opinion. Not because they're evil, awful people, but just like any government, they just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And if there's no competition, you just grow and grow and grow, and your product diminishes. So and it gets more and more expensive. So having this competition out there and the other business solutions coming, and I'd love to hear a podcast with you and Tommy talking about what the cutting edge business solutions are in medical care. I'd love to hear that.
Maybe we'll have you on for that. Dave Petzo, thank you. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. Blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. So this week we've got the Muller hearings coming up. Everybody's all excited. People are, I don't know, the journalists, it's almost as if they're having to work regular jobs. And what I mean by that is you have a lot of people that usually take time off during the summer. Last week, I think, an especially high amount of people took time off. It just seemed like the roads were empty. Everybody was having a good time. Maybe you went to McCall. Maybe you went to the Oregon coast. Maybe you went somewhere, right? And you're thinking to yourself, well, this week is going to be great. We're going to have a great time. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. We're going to take more time off. Well, you can't, because this is the big week when Robert Mueller testifies before both houses of Congress.
We want the American people to hear directly from Special Counsel Mueller what his investigation found.
What we're expecting is another round of what we already know.
The President and the Attorney General and others have spent the last few months systematically lying to the American people.
The President keeps on trying to deceive them about those facts, but who better to bring them to life than the man who did the investigation himself?
It found a great deal of collusion. It found a great deal of obstruction of justice by the President.
It's a pretty damning set of facts that involve a presidential campaign in a close race, welcoming help from a hostile foreign power, not reporting it, but eagerly embracing it.
Really what's happening here is it's the Democrats' time to make the case that they've not been wasting our time and millions of dollars in our committee hearings and clown and farce hearings going on where they're just harassing the president, going after things that we've already known, and just trying to make press release headlines instead of legislating and trying to govern our country.
And there we have it at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning. The big week coming up with Robert Mueller. Does anybody really want to hear what the special counsel has to say? And is he nothing more than a prop to go after the president of the United States? And by the way, where are the ICE raids? With all due respect, we love the president. We want the president to come to Idaho. However, where are the ICE raids over the weekend? We talked about this earlier. If you're just tuning in, we had this big event in Jerome, Idaho. It was a big concert, and there was rumored that the ice was coming. No, not Vanilla Ice with that classic Ice Ice Baby, right? No, it wasn't that. It was a concert. You have Immigration's Customs Enforcement. They were coming to town. They were going to make sure that they arrested people. And suddenly, the concert was canceled, right? The concert was canceled. And you think to yourself, are there that many illegal immigrants in the state of Idaho that they're getting ready to go to a show, to have a good time, and then you have an activist post something saying, I don't know about this, true believers. There's a good chance that ICE is going to come in and arrest you at the concert. Well, what does that say about businesses and everything else if the amount of people that are going there are breaking the law? Right? That are breaking the law and stealing money from Americans. Right? It just seems very crazy to me. So earlier, we played a little clip of this. It's from KMVT in Twin Falls, the mighty KMVT Twin Falls. And they did a report, and they talked to people, and they were looking for the ICE people. And then you had this immigration attorney going, well, I'm telling my people to get ready, as if it's a winter storm. Let's take a listen here on KIDO Talk Radio, and then we're going to get your thoughts.
We asked whether or not we could see any raids conducted here in Idaho over the weekend, or if we could see anyone detained here in Idaho as a result of those raids. A spokesperson for Immigrants and Customs Enforcement says they won't release that information, and that most of those arrested through ICE's enforcement and removal operations either had a criminal conviction, pending criminal charge, or illegally re-entered the U.S. after previously being removed. And while this weekend's raids are expected to target 10 major U.S. cities, immigration attorneys like Bryan Tanner here in Twin Falls are preparing for a possible impact.
And we are taking this seriously. We are, trying to talk to our clients, trying to get the word out, trying to get prepared.
Bryan says when operations like this are taking place, he's most concerned about the disruption of the family unit.
My concern is always families, especially kids who are citizens, because they're the ones who suffer the most in these types of situations.
And that the system can leave children in limbo, particularly here in Idaho due to its large agriculture industry.
Definitely a traumatic situation where the kids have nowhere to go. And the parents are really just working on the dairies. I mean, that's a place where they could possibly get picked up. We've seen that before.
Bryan says he's seen families, both documented and undocumented, as well as businesses, be impacted due to the current immigration system.
My message to employers, my message to undocumented is mind your P's and Q's the very, very, very best you can. Never run. If you're in a car, if you're doing something else, never run. Don't provide false information. If you're in your house, that's a protected space.
So everybody is ginning this up that the ICE people are bad people. By the way, let me just say this to people that are in law enforcement, to people that care about this country, whether it's border enforcement, law enforcement, ICE, no matter what Cortez says, no matter what everybody else says, no matter how the Democrats and the libs, the sneaky, vile, devious little libs vilify you, know that you are appreciated, know that you are keeping us safe, know that you love America, and we love you. And I don't know if it's self-loathing. I don't know if it's the hate America crowd. How Democrats can call about for the abolishment of ICE is crazy. How this guy, an immigration attorney, seems like a nice young man, with a straight face telling people, don't run, don't do this, don't do that. It must be a thriving enterprise. And we thank him for appearing on the KMVT Channel 11 show there in Twin Falls, saying don't run, don't do this. His thing is families being separated. Well, look, if somebody breaks and enters to your home, to your business, and you call the police come in and arrest them. They don't just say, well, we can't do this because we have no rights. Only in America could we have law enforcement being handcuffed and unable to enforce laws of the very sovereign nation that they're sworn to protect because they don't want to offend people that are here illegally from other countries, foreign nationals, if you will. You know, people say undocumented. Doesn't that mean foreign nationals? Because you're not a citizen of this country. Again, I love how this thing, it was going to be there was another event in Caldwell, according to the Idaho Press, which apparently the Idaho Press is the only one that does any reporting because everybody quotes them, right? Columbia Event Center in Caldwell, Los Inquitos was scheduled to play Saturday. They canceled. ICE's Western Region Public Affairs Office, they didn't respond to public comments. Good for them. Know, though, that if you work for ICE, thank you. And imagine if we had Hillary Clinton here, the border would be running wide open. Donald Trump's doing his very best. So here we have another one. Maria Bucklow, a community activist from Jerome, claims ICE agents rented hotel rooms at the Best Western in Jerome. Separate Twitter posts from other users added that raids were possible in Boise, Nampa, and Caldwell. Now, here's the fascinating thing. We love our local law enforcement. There is only one mayor that I'm saying, in my opinion, he might have an issue with the ICE people because we're welcoming cities. Would he tell the Boise Police Department to stand down and not help the ICE folks? See, sooner or later, the liberal agenda conflicts with conservative values. And we're about ready to see that as we have more and more people coming into the gem state. Anyway, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, I mean, how bad is this illegal situation? It's embarrassing. You have international news covering the situation because somebody said ICE agents are renting hotel rooms at the Best Western in Jerome without any backup. And what about these people that put on shows? They're making money off people that are here illegally. Where are the standards, right? Do you just take money from anybody? By the way, coming up, we'll talk a little bit more about that situation. Get your reaction. Don't let me hog the microphone, number one. Number two, this issue involving Boise State, where you had this rally over the weekend, about 100 people. Now, the statesmen, they say hundreds. It wasn't hundreds. Saying they want the diversity programs. They want the tolerance programs. Then why aren't they tolerant of conservatives? And do you believe it's time that the state legislature says to Boise State, you stop targeting conservatives or we stop funding your university? Would you support that measure? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And let's get to Bonnie in Boise. Good morning, Bonnie.
Good morning, Kevin. That you presented us with some interesting comments today. I was going to bite on the one about illegal immigrants and Americans not being willing to do the job. I wanted to basically remind people that back in the 60s, we had unions for carpenters and everything else, and they were making very good wages. And then all of a sudden, even in some of the pro-union states, contractors started bringing in illegals, paying them under the table, and that's how it really started ramping up. They weren't caught. Nobody did anything about it. It was just allowed to go on. So I'm not so sure in construction that that's really true at all. As far as that, also, I'd like to remind that people that there is a law of supply and demand. When you have too much labor available, wages will stay down. But now, of course, we have this minimum wage coming at us from the Democrats' initiative. And I'm ambivalent about that. However, I do think in farming, that there needs to be more automation. For instance, in dairy, there can be a lot of automation. They do it in Japan. We don't do it here. And we support our farmers very well. They're subsidized heavily. I'm sorry. They can use American labor even if they have to pay more. I just don't have, a lot of sympathy for them, or maybe it's sympathy. What am I supposed to have?
What do you make, Bonnie, of what's going on in Idaho, where you have the whole concert being canceled because there were so many illegals, they were worried about it, so they canceled the concert.
I thought it was Leamy. I think it's just a big hokum type thing. I don't know. Maybe there are that many. I truthfully haven't been there to count. Have you been there to look at how, whether it's, a majority, illegal?
I just thought it was odd. I thought it was odd that, what does it say that, hey, there's ICE people at the Best Western, so everybody cancel. I mean, okay, so do we assume that the majority of people, and again, people have an issue with this, but going by the, common sense here, does that mean the majority of the people that go to these shows are not here legally? I don't understand the logic. I really don't.
I don't either, but somehow it seems kind of phony to me. Have you heard of this before in Idaho? I haven't.
No, but it's funny that we have everybody an activist. Hey, guys, they're at the Best Western.
That's right.
No, they're at the Travel Lodge.
Well, they're just working people up, I think, for them, to a certain extent. And, hey, if they want to cancel the concert and lose the money, that's their business, right?
It's a crazy world that we live in, that's for sure.
It definitely is, Kevin. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Good show.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Kevin Miller in the morning, traffic and weather together. Good morning, Dave. And coming up, Lars Larson. Lars is returning from vacation. We can't wait to hear what he has to say. And earlier we were talking about what should and what shouldn't be taught at local universities. Okay, you have the conservative lawmakers saying to the new president, look, you need to cut these diversity programs. And that's not even what she said. Talking about programs that are exclusionary. And Boise State has had a problem with conservatives in the past with free speech, right? Had issues. So what should and what shouldn't be taught? Now you have a group of students that went to the State House. About 100 showed up and decided, well, we're gonna do this, right? Okay. What would you like to see taught at universities? Here is John Krupinski. He is a hockey coach for the minor league hockey team, the Hat Tricks, outside of Danbury, Connecticut. Now, this video has gone viral, everybody. Let's take a listen.
British Prime Minister Theresa May is chairing an emergency...
Well, that's embarrassing. That was the wrong clip. They had it listed as Krupinski, and it was a Simon Owen. And who says they don't make mistakes at the highest levels? I know a lot of people are saying, no, Kevin Miller, you hit the wrong button. I did not hit the wrong button. Let me try it one more time.
British Prime Minister Theresa May.
Nope. Boy. Fox News, shame on you. What he's saying is that directly to his players, that you either stand for the national anthem or get out. That's right. Either stand for the national anthem or you don't need to be on the team. Now, in this world that we live in today, how many people would say to players, stand up for the national anthem? You have schools that don't require kids to, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. Whether you lived in Aurora, Colorado or Nampa, Idaho, you know what it was like as a kid. You stood for the Pledge of Allegiance. And there's nothing wrong with people. And like I said, as a matter of respect, and a lot of us had issues with the NFL. And I'm sure when Garth Brooks was in town, it was a pro-America, we love America vibe. You didn't have people saying, I'm not going to stand for the national anthem. I'm not going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, what does that mean? You're infringing on my freedom. No, we're not doing that at all. What we're doing and saying is we're honoring the people who have made a difference in the lives of so many by giving up and sacrificing so much that some of them aren't here. So we honor them, and we honor our great founding fathers that did what? That created this great nation. Long before Colin Kaepernick and Nikes, long before anything else. And here you have this coach from good old Danbury, Connecticut, saying, look, you need to stand, folks. You need to stand and be counted, as opposed to just sitting back and going, well, it's okay. It's no big deal. We're here to play a game. Not at all. Not at all. So coming up, we can't wait to hear what Lars Larson has to say about the situation involving ICE. And by the way, we gladly, proudly back Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They are doing their very best to keep our community safe. And shame on the leftovers. That's the new name for the libs, the leftovers, who are weaponizing our immigration system for their political purposes rather than keeping America safe. A lot going on. It's a heady, hot weekend here on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning. Appreciate you joining us on the right side. Fox News next. Stay tuned.